Okay, what is up? So I got the Houston Texans depth chart. I'll just go through their roster, position by position, and then just give my thoughts on like the overall team. So start with the receiver group. Pretty good group. They got Brandon Cooks as the number one receiver. Very solid. Had a good year last year. Yeah, just good all around receiver. Still a pretty decent deep threat. And kind of underrated now, I would say. Like people kind of just forgot about him. I still think he's probably a top, definitely 30 receiver in the league, and I think he's a pretty decent number one for this team. Maybe you would like another player to be on that, like a better player to be on the other side, but I think Brandon Cooks, very capable receiver, and you really have to um, watch out for his speed because if you don't, he'll just run straight past you and burn you because he's still got those jets, even if he's getting older. And then the other receiver, they got Andre Roberts listed here. Andre Roberts probably just going to be a special teamer. Probably going to be their kick returner. He's definitely not going to be their other outside receiver. Definitely just going to be like punt returner, kick returner. That's kind of what Andre Roberts does. And Randall Cobb, yeah, he's probably going to be their other primary receiver. Will mostly play in the slot, can play on the outside at points, but he's kind of just been a good slot receiver his whole career. I mean, he's just a very reliable target also, like him and Brandon Cooks, two reliable receivers. Randall Cobb, definitely not as good as he was, but can still get you some pretty decent playing time. Like, won't like have amazing stats, but he'll get you some catches a game, catch some touchdowns, just be a good arm receiver, and you've actually try and get him the ball. I think he's very capable and can come down with it. It doesn't struggle with drops or anything. Just another reliable receiver. So you like what you got there. Not a long-term answer, though. And I think Nico Collins has a very good chance to start on the other outside position. It's either going to be him or Kiki Kute, I think. Possibly Chris Conley. But I think Nico Collins, I thought he was a pretty decent draft pick. I did like Nico Collins coming out of college. Good vertical threat, kind of a bigger receiver also. Good compliment to Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb, I think, kind of being more of that bigger receiver. But another player that can go deep, catch vertical balls, which like they got with Brandon Cooks, and he's kind of got the bigger receiver and Nico Collins, so they definitely got speed. He doesn't have amazing speed, but still good at catching 50-50 balls, good route runner, just a bit of a raw player also, so you can maybe see him not starting straight away just because of that. But I think you can start him straight away and develop, and you kind of got nothing to lose. And Kiki Kute kind of being this waiting for an opportunity. I think as a fourth receiver, I still think he can get a lot of snaps. There is a possible chance that he takes over from Nico Collins. We'll just have to see. I think Kiki Kute is a pretty reliable player also. Just hasn't really broken out or done anything too special. The duo of Chris Conley, who they've brought in from Jacksonville, who's another good, reliable target. Kind of get yourself another veteran receiver. He can still definitely play pretty well. I don't know if he'll probably just be a fifth or fourth receiver, but that's a good fifth, fourth receiver for you. So I like Chris Conley. And then other players, I got like Chris Moore, Dante Moncrief. I don't really see him making the roster. Same with Tawan Taylor. But Alex Erickson definitely has a chance. And like Isaiah Coulter, didn't really show a lot last year, but still a young player. And then the offensive line, they got Laremy Tunsil at left tackle. Yeah, probably one of the best players on their team. One of the best tackles in the league. Just very solid, very good blindside protector. So that's very good for this team. They kind of be looking for that tackle, and when they traded for Laremy Tunsil, they got it. Got themselves an all-pro tackle. So Laremy Tunsil's very good. And like Roderick Johnson, he's a pretty decent backup. Jordan Steckler's not really been too good. And Max Sharping, left guard, probably their biggest question mark on the offensive line, maybe besides the center position. Like Max Sharping just hasn't really lived up to his expectations. Kind of been the weak link on the offensive line for them for like a long time, really. He could still maybe have some more development because he's not that old, but I just doubt it with Max Sharping. I think he's just a bad guard. So I don't love Max Sharping there. They don't really got much backups either. And like center, Justin Britt, haven't seen him. I think he opted out or came back from retirement or something. But but he was a pretty decent center. So good athlete, man. Could see with Justin Britt maybe having a redemption year, kind of coming back, being a pretty good center. I don't have high expectations. I think he'll probably just be an average center. I don't think he'll be a liability. Like, I think he could be a pretty decent center, just nothing too special. And then Marcus Cannon at right guard is actually very good. They traded for him from New England. He's a really good player. He was a tackle most of his career, but as he kind of getting older, guard, good switch for him. And I think he'd be a very high-end player for them, probably be their second best offensive lineman. They also have Lane Taylor, who, yeah, I think he could probably start at left guard if Max Sharping is just really bad and just doesn't really show anything. I think Lane Taylor could definitely start there, or he's just a good backup, so I like Lane Taylor. And then Titus Howard, another player we'll just have to see. Still young, just hasn't really been amazing, just kind of being an average tackle, got beaten at points, just kind of being a bit of a liability. Still young though, like you could definitely see a breakout year for him. I think it's like his fourth or third year. So we'll see with Titus Howard. He's definitely hoping for a breakout. And like Charlie Heck, I mean, Jerron Christian wasn't horrible for Washington last year. So you could definitely see him, like, possibly if Titus Howard struggling to put him in. Probably just going to be a pretty decent backup. And tight end, they got Jordan Akins, who's pretty good. Pretty athletic tight end from Jordan Akins, kind of taking over that number one role as a tight end. I definitely see him getting some pretty decent targets. I think he could be a very good tight end next year. So I like Jordan Akins. I like the other tight ends like Pharaoh Brown, kind of be more of a blocker. I think Brevin Jordan probably be that number 2 tight end. That was a very good draft pick at the point. He was very good coming out of college. Another good athletic tight end who's definitely could have a pretty decent year next year if he gets the chances. Like, he could definitely like take over from Jordan Akins, especially in the future. I think he's definitely a good tight end. I think he could develop into a top 10 tight end in the league just with the traits that he has and like the athleticism. And he's shown very good play at Miami, so I like Brevin Jordan. And like even Keali Waring, who's still got some upside, like Ryan Izzo from New England, another young tight end. So they got some players. And quarterback, the big question mark, Deshaun Watson, if he starts or not. Either way, he's a definite top 10 quarterback in the league. He probably won't, I think he won't get traded. That's the thing, like, it's going to be very hard to trade him with all the stuff going on. He could definitely not play the whole year with the allegations. We'll have to see what happens, or he just gets suspended for a certain amount of time. But I think it's safe to say he won't be the starter going into the season. And I think Tyrod Taylor, it's going to be Tyrod Taylor, Davis Mills. I think it'll probably be Tyrod Taylor, who just hasn't really gotten a chance to have really good starting like playing time. And I think going to Houston, like a team that's kind of rebuilding and doesn't have huge expectations, I think Tyrod Taylor could have a pretty decent year, to be honest, and kind of rejuvenate his career, even though he's a bit older. And just, I don't think he's definitely not going to elevate your offense like Deshaun Watson would, but I think he'd just be a reliable quarterback who would just get it done, just good all-around player, like good arm strength, good accuracy. And like Jeff Driscoll, Davis Mills, those are good backups. Davis Mills, is very bad draft pick, I think, just because if you're going to be a horrible team next year, you're going to pick a quarterback, so I'm not sure. But maybe if Davis Mills comes in for a couple games and just amazing, and you got another Tyrod Taylor, just like Justin Herbert and Baker Mayfield situation where he just kind of gives way to the future quarterback. I just don't think it happens though with Davis Mills being like a third round pick. And running back, David Johnson, he was pretty decent last year. Like the trade, if they didn't trade away DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson, then it wouldn't look as bad. But like either way, David Johnson's a good running back, just not a very valuable position. So it was a dumb trade. But he had a pretty good season last year when he was healthy. So David Johnson would probably come in being the number 1 running back. Could definitely be Philip Lindsay, who they also brought in free agency. I thought that was a good pickup. I was a bit surprised that Denver let go of him. I thought he still had some really good play. Just a really good athlete, has very good speed. Doesn't have amazing vision. Just kind of being, because he's was kind of just a raw player coming out of college anyway. But if you do give him a big hole, and I think like Marcus Cannon and stuff can do that, I think this offensive line has some potential. You could definitely Philip Lindsay breaking off some really big runs next year. So I like Philip Lindsay. And they also brought in Mark Ingram, who was good before like last year when he got injured. Like his whole career, he's been a very solid running back. So you kind of see him maybe rejuvenating his career a bit, being a 1-2 punch with like Philip Lindsay and David Johnson, kind of being that third running back. Also got Rex Burkhead, like as a fourth running back, that's very solid. Like they got a ton of depth on this running back position. Like Rex Burkhead can still do some stuff. And then like Buddy Howard, Dontrell Hillier had some good play last year. Like Buddy Howard was coming at points. Like they just got a ton of players. Like maybe one of these veterans like Rex Burkhead, Mark Ingram gets cut before the season. I think that could definitely happen. But let's go on to defense. So defensive line, yeah, Charles Omenihu, I think he definitely starts at that defensive end. That showed some very good play, kind of being that rotational role with J.J. Watt. I think you just roll with him at the start. Another young edge defender who still has a lot of potential. And I think for the Texans, like you just put in Charles Omenihu, see what you got. He could maybe be a double-digit sack player. We'll have to see. And then like Derek Rivers also and Vincent Taylor, those are fine backups. They don't really give you much. It's good depth. That's kind of it. Ross Blacklock, kind of an underwhelming season last year to say the least. Struggled with injuries and like just bad play. But we'll see. I mean, you hope that he can maybe kind of being that number one defensive tackle, kind of that big run-stopping nose tackle also, who has some pass rush. Like, I thought he could be a good pass rusher for them last year, but just hasn't really done a lot. So I think you're definitely looking for them to do something, like him to make... But my brain just got lost because I was finding something. But Ross Blacklock, yeah, hopefully you're looking for a better season. We'll just have to see what happens. Then Malik Collins was a good pickup in free agency. I thought that was a very good player they picked up, kind of being more depth on the defensive line. Another kind of run stopper primarily. DeMarcus Walker, he's more of an edge rusher. We'll probably see him getting in rotation there. Brandon Dunn's a good rotational player now. Like he has a lot of starts last year. Like starting play for the Texans, so I do like that. And then another draft pick for them, Roy Lopez, probably a backup nose tackle to Ross Blacklock. The other like pass rusher position probably going to be Whitney Merciless, who had a bit of an underwhelming season last year. He could get traded. I doubt it. I think he's kind of just a veteran player on that defense, but could still be a pretty reliable player, like kind of being the commander of the defense. I think he does get some less snaps next year with the players that they got. And I think Jordan Jenkins could possibly take over that number one pass rush role from Whitney Merciless if Whitney Merciless doesn't really show a lot. Because Jordan Jenkins has some good play in New York. So I could definitely see that with Jordan Jenkins. He wasn't a horrible player. And even like Jacob Martin, yeah. I mean, Neville Hewitt's more of a linebacker. They have listed like at more of an edge rush. He's going to be more of a rotational. He's going to be more of a rotational linebacker. Yeah, you'll probably see him getting the rotation more of the linebacker because he had a lot of production at New York last year. He was kind of their starting linebacker. They got a ton of people at linebacker. It's going to be very intriguing who starts. Either way, they got a ton of depth on this team. And like going on to the normal linebackers, Zach Cunningham going to be that starting linebacker. Led the NFL in tackles, I think, last year. So you like Zach Cunningham. He's not amazing in pass coverage, but just gets the tackles pretty much. So he'll rack up tackles again this year probably. So I think that's a good number one linebacker. And I mean the second linebacker, Camus Kruger-Hill, is going to be more of a special teamer. We'll see with Camus Kruger here. I doubt him really being a starter. He's going to be that special teamer really on this defense, going to really help out the special teams. That's kind of what he's done his whole career. And then Christian Kirksey, I think he'll probably start the other linebacker position. He's pretty decent. He's dealt with some injuries, but overall I think he's a pretty reliable linebacker. So I think he probably starts that other opposite of Zach Cunningham. And like Kevin Pierre-Louis, I think could also get himself into the rotation. Also probably be another really good special teams. Like this Texas special team is going to be amazing. But I think Kevin Pierre-Louis will be a good rotational third linebacker probably for them. Could get some good playing time when they kind of. I think they'll probably use a lot of linebackers just with the players they got, like Neville Hewitt also. Like they're gonna probably use a ton of players. Maybe one of those dudes get cut also. Garrett Wallow, another just kind of gonna be a good athlete, special teams linebacker straight away. That's probably gonna be his role. I don't think he has a ton of upside either. And then like Joe Thomas, yeah, they got a ton of really just special teamers. Shaq Lawson actually going to be more that defensive end player. They've looked at that Jack. I mean, he's basically just a defensive end. But so Shaq Lawson, I thought that was a good player to trade for. Actually, I think Shaq Lawson, he had some good play last year. Him and Charles Omenihu could be a good passers duo. They're not going to be anything special, but there's good average players probably. And then like Jonathan Greenard also, who was a rookie last year. Yeah, Jonathan Greenard, he definitely just get himself in the rotation. That'd be good for him. We'll see with him. Let's go into secondary. The secondary for the Texans. The Texans, they brought in a lot of players also. The number one corner, probably going to be Bradley Roby. Yeah, Bradley Roby's been a pretty consistent corner. Has also dealt with some injuries, kind of like a lot of their players. But Bradley Roby, he's still a pretty reliable number one corner. I think that's fine. We'll get beat at points just like every corner. It's not really an elite corner anymore, but he's still being good for the Texans. And then like the other corner, Vernon Hargraves, yeah, he's more of a slot corner, but they brought in Desmond King, who will definitely play for the slot for them. They got him on a good contract also. They hardly played anything for darn it, he was on the Titans and stuff. But yeah, oh my god, Desmond King, I think he'll start in the slot. He's still good, like, he still has some quality play. Like, I don't think their secondary is going to be horrible next year, the Texans. Like, I thought Desmond King was a good player to pick up. Like, Vernon Hargraves, we'll see if him, I think he'll probably just be a backup. He's not really been a good player, definitely been a bust. I think Terrence Mitchell will probably start the other outside corner. He's been good for Cleveland. He's been pretty underrated. Has just been a very solid player when he came in and has played and has had a lot of starting experience. I think he starts at the other cornerback position, and I think that'd be a good, reliable player. Like him and Bradley Roby, two kind of veterans, hold down that defense. So why does this just have to go crazy now? Like, oh my god. They got Kean Crossan also, more of a special teamer. He has some playing time last year, showed some pretty decent plays. So I think that's a good backup. Like Eric Murray, he played a lot of slot last year for the Texans. He's more of a safety than a corner, though. I could probably come in and kind of be more that box also. And I mean, the other corners like AJ Moore, another special teamer. Like their special team's gonna be ace next year. And then, like, Jesus Christ, do you want to die? Jesus. Safety position, Justin Reed definitely going to be that starting safety. He's been a very good player for the Texans. Just being very solid. Hasn't been, like, anything elite. Just being a good player. Then, like, Lonnie Johnson showed some good play at safety, switching from corner. Had a very good year for the Texans. So I think he definitely can start there. They also got Terrence Brooks. And like Eric Murray, of course, who will also compete for that other safety spot. I think it'll probably be Lonnie Johnson with the play that he showed. Like special teams, Cameron Johnson, Cami Fairbairn's a nice kicker. And like punt returner, kick returner, probably going to be either like Alex Erickson or Andre Roberts, probably going to be that. So that's probably all it's going to be. And maybe one of these running backs get in there. Texans, they got amazing depth. Like, they're just not going to be a good team next year. I think that's kind of it for the Texans. Like, not very high expectations, especially if Deshaun Watson is playing. If Deshaun Watson is playing, I could definitely see him getting the Texans some wins. I'm just worried about his defense again, which is always has to be good. And if you're rolling up Tyrod Taylor, he doesn't bring you that much. I don't think he can really get you as much wins as like if you had Deshaun Watson. and of course bring in the new head coach and stuff. I don't think there's high expectations for the fans or like people really going into the season. So that's kind of it for the Texans, and I'll see you next time.